Can I get a motion to come out of executive session, please?
So moved.
Second. Tricia and Mark, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are now back in regular session as of 2:29 PM. Okay. First item on the agenda coming out is the solar projects deviation policy with the proposed amendments as stated and with a couple spelling corrections. Can I get a motion to approve that? Gary, second.
I'll second it.
Mel. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The as amended solar generation and battery energy storage financial assistance policy is passed. Item number 6. Phoenix Expo Solar.
Yeah, so I'm just going to give everyone should have in front of you as part of your packet a description of the project, benefit analysis. I'm just going to give a really quick discussion of the project and then turn it over to Olivia. As you know, it's a 5 megawatt AC solar energy production facility with a 3.916 megawatt AC battery energy storage on approximately 21 acres. That's the inside the fence of a 48.6 acre site in the town of Schuylkill on Hope Drive. The project developer is Nexam Solar based in Boston, Massachusetts, but has multiple projects in New York State. They intend to lease the project parcel from the property owner. It is a $19,211,864,000 project, and the project is requesting a pilot payment lieu of tax UTEP deviation for both the solar generation and the battery energy storage project. And just, yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Olivia, and then I'll talk a little bit about the public hearing that we had for the project.
Okay, great. Yeah. Hi. Thank you all. Yeah, that was a pretty good summary. So the system is a 5 megawatt AC PV system with trackers to optimize production in an industrial zone in Phoenix. The system is tied directly to a battery energy storage system that is 3.9 megawatts AC, made up of 4 Tesla Megapack 2XL battery containers. The battery is sited within the solar site itself, pretty far away from any of the site perimeters. I do have a bit of a presentation if you all are interested in it from like an educational perspective, but otherwise I can just, talk a bit more about our process here.
How long's it gonna take? How long is the presentation?
It could be quick. Depends on, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We'd like to hear your educational component, if you could.
Yeah, okay. I'll share my screen and just kind of walk you through some stuff. Let's see. And then I'll pull up. Okay, so. Oh, actually, that was the wrong screen. 1 second. Well, this works. Well, actually, let me fix it. So,
Just before we're doing that, let me just talk about the public hearing for the project really quick. So last week on March 17th at 10 a.m., we did hold a public hearing in the town of Schuylkill hall. The only people in attendance were myself, CFO Kevin Lamontagne, and Olivia Sparvero on behalf of Nexamp Energy. There were no negative comments for the project, and Olivia did answer questions from me about the specific technology being utilized and provided some input of why it was safer than previous lithium-ion batteries. And hopefully maybe she can provide that same information to you guys as part of her presentation. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so can you all see the presentation screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so just high level on Nexamp. We've been operating since 2007 as a solar company. We started doing community solar in 2015. Those are like the larger systems. And then we got into battery storage in 2019, which is actually pretty early on in the scale of how long people have been doing distributed energy size battery energy storage systems. So most of our storage is in Massachusetts. We also have a pretty big pipeline built up in New York, and we have a couple operational projects in New York. Most of those are systems paired with solar. So yeah, we have 77 megawatts of energy storage operating in total, and 560 megawatts permitted in finance. So this is the site plan. This is the solar. I think you can see my mouse. In this corner is the storage area. This is just the land cleared for your review. This is a up close of the batteries. In our final version, there's actually going to be 2 less batteries here. We downsized the system a bit. It just made more sense financially for to balance it with this system to have 4 megapacks instead of 6. But each one of these cells here is a container system, and then next to it is the equipment needed for monitoring and programming the systems, as well as the inverters. We have a 20-foot vehicle gate that and a 20-foot access road that provides ample room for fire and emergency services, as well as the larger turnaround. Beyond the beyond the battery, we have a 15-foot access road, because generally there's not the need for larger the cranes that bring in the batteries need up to 20 feet, but other emergency vehicles can use 15-foot access roads. So a Tesla Megapack 2XL, they've been on the market since 2022. They're meant for, long-term, large-scale battery energy storage. You couple them up with each other. So our system would have 4 of these boxes. They're about 20 feet long by 9 feet high by like 7 feet deep. And we put them next to each other and combined them electronically to turn them into one system. We expect them to have an operational life of at least 25 years. Tesla provides a 20-year warranty. The systems come prefabricated. You don't need to do anything once they're on site, really, to hook them up. You don't need to open up these containers or do any of the settings manually, or, do any type of opening of the battery. The crane comes on site from Tesla. It is brought with a Tesla engineer, and they work with our EPC to essentially just tie these into external control systems and the solar. But these containerized type systems are definitely the safest in the world for batteries. I don't even think there's been a reported issue with the Tesla Megapack 2XL, but of these types of containerized systems, which include older Tesla Megapacks, their first version, there's only been 6 emergency response incidences worldwide for these types of prefabricated installations. Our system's going to connect directly to the national grid utility lines. The battery is going to charge from the solar and then discharge at times of higher energy usage locally, when generally solar is not able to be produced. So the solar has a peak during the midday, and then generally the battery is, used during 5 p.m. onward when people are coming home from work. This is just a little bit of background about like the energy in the state, and why these batteries are helpful and necessary. They help retain local energy so that we don't need to like pull in power from outside of our load zone. New York in itself is kind of coming up against a moment where the amount of power we make in the state is meeting the amount of power we're going to be needing long term. So having additional consistent power, like baseline power essentially, that can be used during areas of high demand is really necessary. This is showing that the amount of energy that's going to be brought online in the future is generally all going to be renewables, similar to like our system, and that, you know, to get the most of those energy systems, it's best to have them paired with storage so that we can counter the fluxes within the energy supply and demand throughout the day. Yeah, so this is, you know, showing that this is when solar is getting its peak amount of energy, but then up here is when, you know, people are coming home and the peak amount of energy is being needed. And so the batteries just help levelize that, so that the additional instead of the additional energy going into the grid when it's not necessarily needed and being kind of like sent outside of our local area, it can be stored and then just dispatched at higher times of need to help levelize costs and give some grid resilience. Yeah, so speaking to that, these batteries pretty much help bring down the delivery cost, because if you can purchase a more local source of energy at a time where, you know, the energy is going to be fluctuating less, because you're not going to be needing to go to the wholesale market at a very like at critical points. If there's a storm, you know, the wholesale energy price shoots up if there isn't as much local supply. And we also help cut down on costs due to our infrastructure improvements that we're bringing to the local grid by, you know, putting money into the substation and improving, kind of just making it a smoother ecosystem. Getting to the safety of the batteries, this is from a local, like an open source database called EPRI, and they just track globally all the grid scale systems and emergency responses that have been needed. Grid scale systems is like larger than what you'd keep in your home. So let's say like 500 kilowatts or larger. So as you can see in 2018, 2019, 2020, there was a number of incidences, but generally these were with types of technologies that are no longer employed today. A lot of these are nickel, magnesium, cobalt batteries, which are, they tend to burst into flames when they overheat, rather than have a gradual off-gassing event that just requires to be observed. They're also a lot less stable and can be kept in, they need to be more strictly maintained for there not to be an emergency event. But as you can see, as time has gone on and we've switched over to more reliable, you know, types of technologies, and then the lessons learned from previous events have been applied into these new iterations of batteries. That's why Tesla put out the Megapack 2XL versus, you know, keeping the original Megapack on the market. As the amount of gigawatts of power have gone up substantially, the amount of incidences has continued to reduce. I will say that this chart is not up to date as of 2025 and is missing the reignition of the batteries in Warwick. But to speak to those, that manufacturer is no longer in business, and the type of chemistry that that system uses is not like the one that's within the Tesla Megapacks. And then this is the amount of events per year for systems of the type that we're proposing. So in, let's say, 2024, it was, you know, 5 incidences, which doesn't necessarily mean there was a full emergency response and that people had to be deployed. It was more so like the manufacturers needed to, maybe shut the system down or have people go to site to watch it and just make sure that things didn't get out of hand. But yeah, so the Tesla Megapack is split up into these different portions of the container. Each portion is designed to be like thermally separated from the other, and so there won't be a case generally where anything happening in one of these portions of the container would spread. But either way, the UL testing and NFPA testing done on the Tesla Megapacks is, meets the highest standard in the world. Essentially, these systems are one of the few that are allowed to be placed in New York City within very tight confines. Like they require you to have no flammable materials within 10 feet, but really outside of that, it's been tested that they're relatively safe to be up against, buildings and in neighborhoods, essentially, just because they have such rigorous testing done. Some of the safety features of the Tesla Megapack are it has built-in monitors for just about everything, temperature on a cell level, like temperature, pressure, if the voltages are changing, all of that gets reported to our 24/7 response team in Lawrence, Mass, but it's also reported to Tesla at the same time, 24/7, every day, all day. We can see if there's going to be, if we can keep monitoring the temperature, the pressure, and the amount of energy that's going through the system. And from there, we also have the ability to remotely turn off the system and dispatch, response teams. Per the updated New York Fire Code, which was made in response to the 2023 New York fires, it's required that you have specially trained personnel on site within 4 hours from any sort of alarm going off, essentially. Even if you've already had it under control, we have to dispatch people and make sure that we are overseeing any emergency responses and relieving the local emergency responders like the fire department, just to not take up too many resources. But in addition to just the monitors and our ability to remotely turn off the system and for it to also turn itself off, there's also active safety features. Primarily, there is a sparker system in the battery that lights gases that would build up and create a pressure problem. So, and that air is vented off through the top of the system, and it's at that point it's mainly just carbon monoxide, because any of the more volatile compounds are sparked in that ignition. But yeah, so that's Tesla's like active response. But as you probably know, you're not really supposed to like put any water on these during a fire. They will burn themselves out. The way that they're separated, they should essentially burn out within 2 to 4 hours for the amount of fuel that is in each of their separated cell areas. And yeah,
Is there any on-site fire suppression built in?
it's really just the sparker system that prevents it from having any explosion that would, lead to there being exposure from the outside. But it's been tested whether there's, foams or aerosols, water do any helpful suppression. And for these types of batteries, they really don't. They end up causing more of an issue. The reason you don't want to, suppress too much is, well, for one, the water introduces oxygen, but also if you were to use an aerosol system or some sort of chemical suppressant, if you're not entirely sure that the fuel has been burnt through and you leave it with a little bit of fuel left, it's more dangerous for the chance that it might reignite than to just let it burn and stabilize itself.
So there's separations between each one of those number ones there, right? On the screen.
Yeah, yeah, there's
So if there's a
separations
fire in
between.
one of them. Sorry, if there's a fire in one of them, won't spread to the rest of them, theoretically.
Exactly. It's even also separated vertically. Like they really try to make it so that it's not likely to, spread the heat throughout the systems. There are, cooling systems within it that are always actively monitoring. That's like why we have the venting and, there's refrigerant and such that, maintains the proper working temperature. And so if there was ever to be a flux that we noticed in one of those chambers or cells, the system automatically detaches from the electric grid and, you know, uh, essentially stops itself from building any more heat.
Okay.
But that is like the closest thing there is to the sparker system, and the active, cooling is like the closest thing there is to an active suppressant.
How toxic? Can I ask a question about the gases? You mentioned gas off and gases being released into the atmosphere. How toxic are, and what kind of toxins are in these things?
Yeah,
gas
so
we're
it's
talking about.
it's primarily carbon monoxide. As far as other toxins, they're like sparked off during the use of the sparker system. The guidelines that are given to fire departments from the state, and also consultants that work to prepare these emergency response plans is, to keep it 100-foot safety boundary, like to not go within 100 feet. But studies have shown that actually larger systems than this don't have any sort of dangerous levels of emissions beyond 50 feet. When you're doing the cell level testing, like these UL cell level testing, they also take air measurements, and beyond 9 feet, there's not even carbon monoxide. The state has done a decent amount of air testing, as well as California. They both, during emergency responses, have had people go out with monitoring systems, actively during the event and also afterwards. And they didn't find any levels, raised levels of any pollutants that would, cause harm outside of the safety perimeter. So like, yeah, the main concern is really carbon monoxide. It's pretty similar to like a house fire or a plastics fire.
And Olivia, just to be clear, you're talking about the Tesla Megapack 2XL system, not generally, right? In terms of
Generally, I'm talking about the lithium iron phosphate batteries.
Okay.
Those all, regardless of what, battery it is, that chemistry is going to burn very similarly and have the same off-gassing composition. The nickel, magnesium, cobalt batteries that are more flammable, they did come with, there was like what is it, hydrogen like acid, I don't know, they have dangerous things to breathe in, they have heavy metals in them. Those I would not, say are close to like a house or plastics fire. But all these lithium iron phosphate batteries are, they don't have heavy metals in their off-gassing, and it's, primarily carbon monoxide. But they don't shoot acidic gas out.
Okay.
And yeah, and I guess to speak a little bit more about this project in itself, with all of our systems, especially those that contain batteries, we like to engage the fire department early. So we had the Phoenix fire department involved on the creation of our site plan, and we've had a number of meetings, to make sure they understand the system. Also, as part of our permit application, they've reviewed our storage. Them and third-party engineers have reviewed our storage operation and maintenance plan, our equipment spec sheets for the storage, our specific storage commissioning plan, because generally if there is going to be an issue with the battery, it's going to be at that point when you're turning it on. Fire safety compliance plan, which breaks down all the different codes that our layout and equipment are aligned with. Our emergency response plan, which is, pretty much like at this point, a draft plan showing, the fire department where they should stage and just giving them like a manual essentially for how to respond to these things. And then the hazard mitigation analysis and our decommissioning plan. On top of these, we also, work with the fire department to turn these into final drafts, making sure that everything's up to date to the latest site plan. And we also do, on-site training every year with a consultant like the Emergency Safety Response Group, which is a group of ex-firefighters, most of them from New York City, that help respond and train fire departments that are that have battery storage coming to their community. So yeah, as of right now, the fire department has signed off on all of our plans, and we are going to continue to work with them in an iterative process as we get closer to actually constructing the system.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very informative. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for Olivia? I do have other things to discuss related to the project in terms of what the payment structure and other things would be, but I want to give an opportunity.
Any other
Are
questions?
you going to stick around until we get to any votes?
Yeah, I
There is
can
any
stick
further
around.
question?
Yeah, Olivia, I have a question. Have you had any projects? You said you guys have kind of been around, done this for a while. Have you had any of your projects that have gone through a decommissioning?
That have gone through decommissioning?
Yeah.
On the storage side, no. I mean, also, I don't really think on our solar side either. We expect the solar projects to run for 40 years, and the batteries have really only been a commercial viability for the past like 6 years. So, we haven't had to decommission any of them. We haven't. Another reason we would decommission is if, there was an incident and the battery was left in an unsafe or unusable form. But, we've not had any emergency responses or any need to downsize or decommission a battery.
As part of your processes, have you calculated the cost, projected cost of decommissioning a battery storage
Yeah.
system as opposed to standard?
Yeah, so for this project in particular, our decommissioning plan has estimated decommissioning costs, and that incorporates the battery decommissioning. It's like around nearly $800,000 right now, and it comes with an escalator. And then we also have part of our decommissioning plan, a clause that it'll be reviewed every handful of years and made sure that we're up, we're keeping current with the market on decommissioning costs.
How does the decommissioning cost in your projection for a battery storage compare to without battery storage?
I mean, battery storage, when we do like a standalone battery storage, I would say a system of this size would probably at this time have like maybe a $250,000 to $300,000 decommissioning bond. That's, giving a bit more additional, money for contingencies and such. But yeah, the decommissioning itself will be less than the cost of the modules, but we do like to kind of put additional money in there for the batteries, kind of higher than what you would expect for some, like, the modules of that size, just in case.
So the cost for decommissioning a normal project of this size, you said about 250 with the battery.
Oh, I think with the batteries. Okay, so for a normal system of this size without batteries, I would say is like, let's say $500,000, and then if you add the batteries on top, it's about another, $250,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move along.
All right, so just other things, just want to state, so the project has received received planning board approval. So we do have a seeker resolution based on a neg deck and we would be, consenting to the town of Scripples, environmental review on that. In terms of discussing about what the payments would be related to this project. Based on the 5 megawatt AC solar and the 3.9 megawatt for the battery, payments in year one for this project will be 40,784, and it would average 49,657 over the life of the pilot. It's important to understand that the current taxes being paid on that piece of property is $1,065. So you're looking at roughly 49 times more than what is currently being paid over the life of that pilot. The company would also be making payments to the town of Schuylkill for a community host benefit agreement for both sides of the solar and for the battery energy storage. Those are not things that we negotiate or look at, but those are things that we require proof of before we close. So even though we can approve today, we will not close until those are provided. And yeah, so as we discussed before, new to the policy is that there would be a payment in lieu of sales tax that would be equal to 50% of whatever the exempted amount would be, payable to the IDA in the years preceding when they took that benefit. So those are what the payments would be related to it. And going through the impact. The clean energy generation capacity of 5 megawatts, which is 9 million kilowatt hours annually, which is sufficient to service between 800 to 1,000 homes. The environmental benefits include the avoidance of 6,000 tons of CO2 annually. The 3.9 megawatt on-site battery storage aids in local electric grid resiliency by balancing supply and demand. Project would create approximately 50 construction jobs during that construction. And as I said before, there will be the average annual pilot payment of 49,657, which is about 49 times more than what the current taxes are on the property. That covers it. Any questions on that? Okay.
So this falls under the plan that we just.
That's correct. Yes, it would be approved after the solar generation battery energy storage system financial assistance policy was amended.
Okay. Any other questions? Can we get a motion for the seeker, or are we the lead agency on the seeker?
We're not. We're concurring to the town of Schuylkill's findings.
We need to get a motion to accept the seeker, concur with the seeker resolution. I'll make that findings. Mark, Mel, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Do we have to approve it?
Already did.
Oh, we approve that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, carries.
I'm
And Mel.
bogged down. I'm sorry.
Okay. Can I get a motion for the inducement resolution?
So moved.
I'll second.
Mark and Tricia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion for the pilot?
I'll make it.
Tim, second.
Good.
Gary. Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Final approving resolution,
Make the motion.
Mel, second.
Second.
Mark. Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Olivia. It was very informative.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good.
Okay, so moving on from that, our next item is going to be in executive session, I believe, correct? So
Yeah, the
the
next
10
three
and
are
11 and 12 will be in executive session.
I'll make the motion to go back into executive session.
Mark,
I'll second.
seconded by Tricia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're in executive session at 3:03 PM.
The reason,
Hold on before we do.
Explain the reasons.
the reason is to, again, under Public Officers Law, Section 105, to discuss the financial history of a particular person or corporation. Also, believe that there is a component of threatened litigation and litigation strategy to be discussed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jim.